Good afternoon, dear participants at the conference. The topic of our research work is Areas of the Nature Reserve Fund Use in the Context of Sustainable Development. Sustainable development is currently one of the most important challenges for humanity. The essence of sustainable development is to maximize economic and social benefits from the development of the national economy system while protecting the environment and ensuring the long-term reproduction of natural resources. Nature conservation and environmental protection are recognized as one of Ukraine's priorities in the context of European integration. One of the main objectives of the European Green Deal is to preserve and restore ecosystems and biodiversity. Since 2015, when the UN adopted the 2030 Agenda and 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, Ukraine's progress in their implementation has been uneven, with serious problems in achieving the vast majority of the SDGs. The implementation of the tasks to ensure the protection of ecosystems and biodiversity, SDG 15, has partially stopped. The implementation of the policy aimed at protecting and restoring terrestrial ecosystems, including the preservation and expansion of the territories of the Nature Reserve Fund in Ukraine, has brought about certain positive changes, but unfortunately has not allowed for the dynamics necessary to approach the targets on the horizon until 2020. However, such rates do not allow to achieve the target benchmarks, 6,276.9 thousand hectares and 10.4%, respectively. One of the key current problems in the field of nature reserves funds, NRF, in Ukraine is the lack of clearly defined boundaries of nature reserves at the regional level and the unresolved issue of their introduction into nature. The main reason for this is the lack of funding for the development of relevant land management projects, since the boundaries of NRF's territories are determined only after the allocation of funds for their introduction into nature, that is, after the creation of NRF territories and not at the stage of their formation. As of January 1st, 2023, the Nature Reserve Fund of Kharkiv region includes 247 protected areas, with a total area of 74.877 thousand hectares. The proportion of the area of the Nature Reserve Fund in the area of the administrative unit is 2.4%, which is one of the smallest in Ukraine. The fact that the state strategy for regional development until 2020 stipulates that the amount of land in the Nature Reserve Fund of Kharkiv region should be 282.735 hectares at the beginning of 2020, which is equivalent to 9% of the total area of the region, indicates a low level of measures to increase the percentage of the region's territory reserved. In other words, the percentage of the territories allocated for the reserve fund does not meet the planned indicators. During 2021, at the initiative of the regional state administration, there were attempts to expand the lands of the region's Nature Reserve Fund, but no final decisions were made. We estimate that if measures had been taken to include the territory in the region's Nature Reserve Fund, which is 71,450.5 hectares, the percentage of the actual area of the NRF to the area of the administrative unit would have been 4.65 versus the actual 2.4. Thus, there are certain difficulties in the process of creating new and expanding existing protected areas in Kharkiv region. The prospective directions of development of the Nature Reserve Fund of Kharkiv region can be presented by the following structural and logical scheme. This logical structure can serve as a basis for the development and implementation of the strategy for the development of the Nature Reserve Fund of the Kharkiv region. One of the promising areas for increasing the area of land in the Nature Reserve Fund of Kharkiv region may be at the expense of territories reserved for the creation of new or expansion of existing nature reserve objects, creation of ecological corridors, and the land reclamation. For example, in the Krasnokutsk community of the Bohodukhiv district of the Kharkiv region, the inclusion of reserved areas in the lands of the community's ecological network will increase its area. The existing area of the Nature Reserve Fund is 1,091.6 hectares and will amount to 11,475.5 hectares, while the area of the Nature Reserve Fund will be 1,325.5 hectares, which will be 1.27% compared to the existing 1.05% of the total area of the community. The prospective territories of the Nature Reserve Fund in the Krasnokutsk community of the Kharkiv region are shown in tables 3 and 4. In order to intensify the processes aimed at achieving Goal 15 in Ukraine, it is necessary to intensify the work of local authorities to create new territories and objects of the Nature Reserve Fund, to promote the transition in organic agriculture to preserve and improve soil fertility and biodiversity, reduce land and water pollution, artificial pesticides or herbicides, etc., to ensure effective management of territories and objects of the Nature Reserve Fund of local and national importance, including increasing the amount of financial resources allocated for the conservation of the Nature Reserve Fund, to ensure improvement of economic mechanisms to stimulate land protection and restoration of soil fertility, to ensure the regulation of the transformation of the country's land structure, reduction of arable land, increase of forest cover, restoration of hayfields and pastures, etc. In the process of decentralization of power and transfer of land from state ownership to the ownership of united territorial communities. Thank you for your attention.